welcome to the swamp. So this is going to be my 2024 worst games all the way to best games that I reviewed this year. Now, not every game came out this year. These are just the games that I reviewed personally. Now, some of these are not quite survival games, as you see in the footage behind you, but most of them are, as the survival game genre is mostly what I do, but I also do sandbox open world RPGs as well. Now, let's get into the list, but first, let's start off with an honorable mention of a game that I didn't quite rate, so it's not going to get a overall point in the list that I'm providing today. Starting off this list with my honorable mention is Alek the Lost Kingdom, as the game in its current state is more like a tech demo, hardly has any content in it, and that's why I didn't give it a rating like my other videos. Alek the Lost Kingdom certainly has a lot of potential for what I did play was really fun, from the building up your village, your army, taking out goblin villages, to even declaring war on other NPC cities. As a single developer is behind this game, and it seems that there is plenty more to do and plans to expand the current game with all of the content and systems, so I will be returning to it in the future. Number 11 is Myth of Empires, pretty much the worst game that I have played this year. Well, it's not the worst game I've ever played. There were a lot of issues with Myth of Empires. I rated this game a 2.4 for a reason. From the overblow of the specialization talents to the combat and even crafting itself. While it can be forgiven because the game was in a standstill for years while in a legal battle, the jump straight into 1.0 with hardly any changes to the game was, in my opinion, not a good idea. So the only good thing that I liked about this game was really the character customization. The PvE suffered, the building suffered, and so much more that really just made this game an absolute flop in my eyes, but it had a lot of potential. Number 10 on my list is Castaway, which I rated a 2.6. Castaway is going to be one of the two games on this list that had quite a lot of potential, but not quite there yet, as it currently plays better than Stranded Deep, but lacks a lot of content that, of course, can be added throughout its early access life. Another issue that can be fixed is teaching the player about some of the mechanics that are not quite clear, such as farming. Luckily, a lot of the issues from the launch state of the early access has already been resolved, such as the fact that the hunger bar dipped way too quickly and food barely fed you. That has since been fixed, and now you don't have to constantly be hunting for food in order to do anything in the game. Number 9 is going to be Nightingale, which I rated a 3.3. Nightingale is the second game with potential to be great. I love the idea of traveling through different realms for progression until you reach the end goal. However, every single realm that you entered was exactly the same, at least within the various biomes. Every forest realm, for an example, had the exact same creatures, the same look, and so on, just with a different color maybe. So you would only see very little different creatures if you were in higher areas of the progression. The game is still in active development, so this is all likely to change from now until the 1.0 launch. Number 8 is going to be Ark Survival Ascended. I also reviewed the DLCs, but they're really going to be combined into this one, as I didn't want them to have their own unique spot, as they are DLCs. As for Ark Ascended, the base game alone has so much more quality of life and new features that Evolved sorely needed, from an update in the animations to better map pinning systems, changing out arrows easily, and so much more. The only downside is that even with a powerful computer, the optimization of this game is absolutely terrible. I can't even run this game above low graphics settings, even with a 3050 and an 11th gen processor. Even the DLC had issues like this, including meshing issues, which killed me at one point. I don't expect optimization to get any better, as it never did for Ark Survival Evolved. only our PCs eventually being updated enough that it will run this game with little issues. Number 7 is Ghost Watchers, which I rated a 3.7 out of 5. Ghost Watchers is a fun round-based game, which is a blast to play with friends. It is similar to Phasmophobia, but has its own unique spin that makes it different as well. It is more active and allows you to capture the ghosts like Pokemon. The ghosts having their own unique abilities to attack you also add a lot of spice to each round, as you need to learn their weaknesses and strengths to survive. I didn't have many issues with this game, and it is still planned for tons more content, so I would definitely keep this one on watch. Number 6 on this list is going to be Smalland, which I rated a 3.8. Now finally in a 1.0 launch state, Smalland is a complete game from start to finish, but they do plan on adding more content post-launch, so it is definitely not feature complete just yet. It certainly will give you a challenge if you love harder PvE styled games. While it lacks a little bit in the PvP department, it is not impossible to fight other players. The building system has gotten a lot of improvements, as did the pet and crafting systems. I still highly recommend this game for those who are interested. Number 5 is going to be Soulmask, which I rated a 3.8. Still in the early access, Soulmask is a game similar to Conan Exiles, where you could build up your city or castle with NPC followers who will actually live their lives, eat, drink, sleep, and relax, all of course between or after the various tasks that you assign them. Since I last played, a lot of improvements to my various criticisms have already been addressed, such as empowering the player character to not have to rely on strong NPCs. PvP and PvE can be challenging, as it is a combination of skill and progression. You can easily kill something stronger than you if you are careful and plan perfectly. I will still continue to play this game, and will make a 1.0 review when the time comes. Number 4 is going to be Kingdom Come Deliverance, which I rated a 4 out of 5. While not a survival game, remember, I also review open world RPGs, and Kingdom Come Deliverance is very much so an open world, sometimes sandbox RPG that is very in-depth and immersive. It is a realistic game to a high degree, and will remind you that you are not a savior most of the time, and will kick you into the dirt while spitting on you. It relies on both the player skill as well as leveling up Henry's individual skills to overcome his various conflicts. The best part of the game is the open-ended nature of the quest and the ability to complete each quest in many different ways for various outcomes, leading to different playthroughs being completely different. The only downside is that the game can be very buggy and cause a lot of progression loss at times. While not as common as it used to be in the launch, it still happened several times in my playthrough, so just keep that in mind if you want to try this out before the second game comes out very soon in the next year. Number 3 on my list is Enshrouded, which I rated a 4 out of 5. This is a strange one, as I personally did not like this game for a few reasons. However, while reviewing it, the systems were all there to be a great game, which is why I gave it such a high rating. It's not that I think that it's a bad game, I just don't think that this is the game for me. But I do, however, love the building system. It is a voxel-based system, so you can get very creative with it, and I wish other games would adopt a system similar to this one for their building. I do believe that it just recently updated the game, or is about to, which will add a new snow biome with tons of new added content and building onto the RPG nature of the game. I still suggest trying out the game if you have the time to. Number 2 is Palworld with a 4.1 out of 5. Palworld takes my number 2 spot for the best game I reviewed in 2024. There is only one reason, well, a compound reason, really, of why it is not my number 1 spot. this game has everything we wanted from a modern Pokemon game, and while it doesn't play like a Pokemon game and more like Ark Survival Evolved, it is still extremely fun to play, fight alongside your pals, and ride them. No, not like that. But also the building of large bases with your pals helping out outside of the balls so you can treat them like friends or like slave labor, and the playstyle is completely up to you. I already have a few hundred hours in this game, but one thing prevented me from making it number 1, and that is the change to Unreal Engine. Why do you ask? The game looks amazing. Yes, it does, and I think the graphics update from Unity to Unreal Engine was a great thing, but as many others have already covered, tons and tons of content has actually been cut or delayed because of this. The game was supposed to feature destructible buildings, large living cities, colossal sized legendary pals, fishing, sleds, base infiltration, and so much more content that we never ended up seeing. Now, that's not to say we are not going to see it eventually. This game is still in early access, so it can be added in while it's still in development, which I hope sorely to see. If we get everything that was originally promised to us from the first 1 or 2 trailers, it would make this the best game ever. But as it stands right now, this game is already a great game, and I suggest you try playing it if you haven't already. My number 1 game that I reviewed in 2024 is going to be Fountain of Youth, which I rated a 4.2 out of 5. The final 1.0 launch has come only after a year, and so many great quality of life improvements have been added, as well as the final ending for the story, which had a twist that I didn't even see coming. The final boss was fairly easy, but did surprise me with how complex it was compared to the rest of the game. While I was lightly annoyed that the game was not fully open world, and the mechanics behind it took a bit of getting used to, I loved how in-depth this game was, but also how forgiving, unlike Green Hell where one step on a snake can lead to instant death. In this game, if you get poisoned or sick, you can cure it through natural methods rather than medicines, and are rewarded for good health practices with immunity bonuses. I had very little issues while playing it, which is always a bonus, but even more, if you love exploration, the story mode only really visits half of the islands, so you can explore different islands at your own leisure and be rewarded for finding recipes to new items, and even have different progression methods that are complements to the main progression, like different types of ships and weapons. As the highlight of this video, I highly recommend that you try out the Fountain of Youth, and that is going to be it for this video. These have been the worst all the way to the best games that I have reviewed in 2024. Some of these are already in the 1.0 fully launched or feature complete state, while others are still in early access. Those that are in early access, I will be reviewing and revisiting when they hit their 1.0 launch state. It could be next year, it could be 2 years later, or never. Who knows? But if you wish to see all of those new reviews from new games, old games, all the like, some gameplay and such, I will be doing all of that right here on Excalligator Reviews, primarily survival games, but I will also do open world, sandbox, RPG games as well. So until then, I hope you liked this video, subscribe if you want to see more, and I'll see you next time. Florida Gatorman out.